I saw a post on Reddit recently where the person asked, why does everyone recommend Fidelity as a broker but still push Vanguard ETFs? So let's take a look at this. First of all, exchange traded funds, ETFs, they're portable. So you can buy or sell them with any broker. There's no financial advantage to holding them with their company. So for example, if you've got a Vanguard ETF, there's no reason why you should have a Vanguard brokerage account just to have the ETF. You can buy or sell Vanguard ETFs with any broker. And the same goes with other ETFs. So there's really no reason. But it wasn't always this way. Before there were ETFs, there were mutual funds. And mutual funds in the past, they had to be bought from the company that created them. So if you had a Fidelity mutual fund, you basically would buy it through Fidelity. If you had a Janus mutual fund, you would buy it through Janus or any of the various companies. But even today, a lot of these mutual funds are pretty portable where you can buy them through brokers now. But in the past, you pretty much had to buy it through the company. There are some exceptions. Fidelity has the zero funds, and they're some of the lowest fees. It's a zero fee, but they have to stay at Fidelity. So you have to buy them through Fidelity. You have to sell them at Fidelity. You can't transfer it to any other broker. But most of the other mutual funds you can buy from brokers. But in some cases, there are fees for that. So ETFs are still definitely more portable. So that sort of answers the portability question, I think. But why is it that people are recommending Vanguard ETFs? Over the past 10 years, 84% of Vanguard's ETF beat the returns of their peer group average. Lower taxes. In the last 5 years, 82% of Vanguard ETFs had no taxable capital gains distribution. 99% of Vanguard ETFs had no capital gains distribution in 2024. Lower expense ratios. On average, ETF expense ratio is 77% less than the industry average. Vanguard's average 0.05, industry average 0.22. The differences between ETFs and mutual funds. You can't buy or sell mutual funds throughout the day. You only get one time that you can buy or sell a mutual fund, and that's usually, I think, the end of day. And mutual funds generally have higher expenses and higher minimums. So with Vanguard, it's $1,000 to $50,000 depending on the fund. Whereas ETFs, for as little as $1, you can buy an ETF. And tax efficiency, generally ETFs are more tax efficient. And that's Vanguard saying that. But Vanguard mutual funds are also very tax efficient, but ETF is still the best. Okay, if we look at Vanguard ETFs and we sort by expense ratio, the lowest price is at the top now. They have one called a developed markets ETF, and it's international. 0.03% for developing markets international is really cheap. Developing markets and international is more. Also, you have the popular VOO, the S&P 500 ETF, 0.03%. Even if we keep on going, you've got numerous ETFs. Vanguard has a lot of ETFs, all different types of indexes and categories. And if we look at the most expensive one they have, 0.30%, that's it. And that's a multi-sector income bond ETF. Now let's compare it to iShares. iShares also has some very low price ones. Their low starts at 0.03% for their bond ETF. They have a total stock market ETF, ITOT, 0.03%. They also have an S&P 500 ETF, 0.03%. But Vanguard is still very competitive. And if we look at their most expensive that iShares has these sector ones like this India 50 ETF that has a very high 0.89% expense ratio, almost 1%. And they've got an active health ETF with a 0.85% expense ratio. Okay, so you saw the fees, you saw their Vanguard has kind of set the standard that Vanguard outperforms a lot of the competitors. And Vanguard has been decreasing the price. In February of 2025, they announced the largest fee cut in Vanguard history. They reduced fees in 168 share classes across 87 funds. If we look here, we can see the corporate bond ETF went from 0.04% to 0.03. You've got a dividend appreciation ETF, 0.06 to 0.05. The popular information technology ETF, VGT, went from 0.1 to 0.09%. Okay, so now you see why people are promoting Vanguard ETFs. But to answer the other guy's question, why would people be recommending Fidelity over Vanguard brokerage? And let's take a look and compare the two. Now, I have both Vanguard and Fidelity accounts, so I'm going to kind of switch back and forth between them so you can see. But I hardly ever log into the Vanguard account, and I think you'll see why here in a little bit. And mostly it's because it's a retirement account, but also because of the interface. First of all, the website's sort of basic. Now, if we look at the menu headers here, we've got some duplicate stuff. So we've got My Dashboard, and we also have Dashboard below, but they're basically the same thing. So if I click here, it goes to the dashboard, and Portfolio also sort of duplicates some of the items here. So besides the My Dashboard and Dashboard basically being the same, and some of these Portfolio and other ones linking to stuff in here, also there's really no difference between Dashboard and balances. So when we click on Dashboard, we get the performance chart and activity and some income. Balance is basically just the dollar amounts, which is completely useless. It's not doing anything. It's not showing anything more than what you can get here. So I'm not even going to click on that one. But you can see here a rate of return, and this is also under the performance tab. So we can see the returns for the portfolio, and they have a rate of return, which is a little bit different than the cost. And you can see year to date, 5-year, etc., 3-year, 1 year. And if we switch to custom, you can only do by month. You can't do by day. So we could go back by year or by month, and you won't see any detailed information as far as which holdings are generating the returns. All you've got this performance details by month. You can see the beginning balance, market gains, income return, etc., but nothing detailed. If we go to Portfolio Watch, it basically just shows the asset allocation. So it shows that I've got 100% stocks, mostly domestic. This is not a whole lot of information here. So these we've already done. So you've already seen these. You've already seen these. Now let's look at holdings. Holdings is the main one with Vanguard. I spent about an hour trying to figure this out. It's so simple, but it's so cluttered and so difficult to use. So when we go to the Holdings tab, you see this summary information, and this is a drop down, and you can select items here. Like I'm going to do the Roth IRA brokerage. You'll see the breakdown as far as the holdings that I have. So I've got a small cap, dividend appreciation, S&P 500. You can see the price per share of the ETF, and you can see the daily change. This is July 3rd, 2025. You can see the dollar change. This is not the portfolio dollar change. This is just how much one share has gone up in the day. And some of these I've got more than one share. So not very useful. You have the percentage return also, but you don't have the total dollar return for the portfolio. Okay, so I'm looking at these and I'm thinking, maybe this dividend appreciation one's not doing, I don't know how well any of these are doing with Vanguard. So you're sort of blind with Vanguard. So in order to look at the returns, I have to dig deeper and find somewhere else. There's no other setting. There's nothing in here where you can find it. Okay, so on prices and returns, this is what I see. And if I scroll down to my actual holdings, the larger holdings, you'll see the price, you'll see the SEC yield, etc. This is just general information for the ETF. It's not specific for me. I don't see the dollar returns or any of that. Now let's go to another section and maybe we can find something. If we go to unrealized gains and losses, to me, this should be the front page, not the summary. But now finally, we have some detailed information. So if we look here, we can see the holdings. We can see the number of shares, the cost per share. We can see the value, the total cost of the holdings, the market value, the short-term capital gains or losses, long-term capital gains, losses, total capital, the total dollar gains. This one here is up 2,700. This one's up 41,000. And you can see the percentage return. And I'm still not sure why this one here has I think this one's more recent. I used some dividend payments to buy this, but it shows cost per share. And if we look at the lot details, you can see cost per share, but these other ones were older. Now, I think since I just have one share, maybe that's why this says cost per share. These other ones, rather than to give an average, they just leave it out and you can go through and look at it. As you saw here, I had to do several clicks to get to this. And this is what I sort of want to look at. I want to see how well each of these is doing. But the way Vanguard does it, they want you to be sort of in the dark. They just give you a chart and they say, this is your return. They basically show you the chart. You're sort of blind and you're supposed to hold it forever and not question it. Okay, now let's look at Fidelity. So this is my Fidelity account. Here's the summary page. This is the main page you go to. And I've minimized the side panel, but it shows all your accounts there. Now, this one you can sort of change the balance by year, but this one's not so useful for me. So the one that I like is the positions. So now that I'm in the positions tab, It also has a drop down where dividend view, fund performance, close position. But you can see right here, this was basically one click. Now I've got all of my portfolio here. I've got all of these current value, percentage of the account, quantity, and we can see the daily, today's gain or loss for each. We can see the dollar gain or loss for each position. So this Vanguard VGT Information Technology ETF up 1.39% today, up $138. You can see the total gain, 2,500, percentage gain or loss, 33%. This is all helpful information. Vanguard basically didn't have any of this sort of information. You had to really dig deep to sort of find it. And you also have a 52-week range. I like this. You can see the cost basis here, average cost. So they actually give us the average cost here in a column, so we don't have to dig like we did with Vanguard to find this. And if I click on this, I can see each of the shares that I bought, when I bought them, the cost, the gain, or when we click on the dividend yield, we can see all the dividend payments. Now we also have a performance tab in Fidelity. We can do the performance just like we did with Vanguard, but look at this. So Vanguard only had roughly 5 of these. Now this one we've got 1 month, 3 month, year to date. So we've got at least 3 more. So we'll do year to date. You can see investment income. Also, it has the comparison here, which I really like. So we can compare your return for the portfolio to the S&P 500 and see how well you're doing. And you can see the income return, deposits, withdrawals, asset allocation, all from one screen. Also, we have bill pay in Fidelity. Fidelity gives you a ACH, a regular bank ACH number and routing number where you can actually pay bills, or you can pay it through the Fidelity interface. So you can add a payee. You can search for vendors. You could pay a utility bill. You could pay a credit card bill. Basically use it just like you would a bank. And Vanguard doesn't have this at all. Both Vanguard and Fidelity have great settlement accounts. Whenever you sell a security or dividend payments that aren't reinvested, it all goes into the settlement account and it gets invested automatically at this high yield rate. The Vanguard Federal Money Market account is currently paying a very high 4.24% as of July 2nd, and it has a low 0.11% expense ratio. But this expense ratio is already built into here, so this isn't going to get reduced by this amount. And this is even higher than SPACs. If we look at Fidelity's government money market fund, SPACs, it has a 7-day yield as of July 2nd of 4%. But the great thing about this is it's linked to a bank account number, so you can use it for bill pay. Even with the lower yield, I still prefer SPACs just because you've got the flexibility of a bank. You can do bill pay and do ACH transfers directly for bill pay with credit card companies and various companies. Now, Vanguard, as far as I know, hasn't been adding very many new features or products, but the one product that they came out with recently is called the Vanguard Cash Plus account, and it's a FDIC insured account, sort of like a high yield savings account or a bank. So it's protected by the FDIC, which is better than what Fidelity gives us SPACs. But this one only pays 3.65% versus 4% for SPACs. But I thought this may be able to do something that Fidelity SPACs already does and link it so that we can do bill pay or use this as a settlement account. But unfortunately, this cannot be used as a settlement account. So you can use this for bill pay, but you're going to have to transfer the money back and forth from the brokerage settlement account. So I'll show you how it works. So when you click on the Cash Plus account, you can see the return here, 3.65%, funds available to withdraw, funds available to purchase Vanguard money market funds. So the other day I opened this account, I opened it with $0. I did a transfer of $1. It pretty much immediately showed up in the account, but it showed up as funds available to purchase Vanguard money market funds. Funds available to withdraw said it would take probably 1 business day. So even though you're transferring between accounts, the funds available to withdraw, you're still going to have to wait a day. So I really see no point in having this product because I could transfer from my bank account to Fidelity and have it go in SPACs, have it pay 4% instead of 3.65%, and not have to be transferring back and forth all the time. So I'm definitely going to close this account, but I signed up just so I could demonstrate this. So if I do another transfer right now, funds available to withdraw won't appear for a day. So you have to wait for the funds to clear. So what sort of investment tools does Vanguard have available for looking for investments like stock screeners, ETF screeners? If we go to resources and education, we can see the tools they have available. They have retirement income calculator, investor questionnaire. I have selected here all tools. As you can see, there's no stock screener. Basically, very, very basic. So nothing that I really find useful. This is all very remedial stuff. Now let's go to Fidelity. Under news and research, what do we have available? What sort of tools? Well, we've got a watch list. We've got alerts. If we select stocks, we can look at top stocks by sectors, orders by Fidelity customers. We can see what people are buying. We've got NVIDIA, Tesla, market movers, most actives, 52 weeks highs, lows. And we've got a thing here, find stocks. We can use this interface right here to find some. And then it opens up a stock screener. Now we can select various criteria: dividend yield, valuation, price earnings ratio, dividends, earnings. A lot of information here. So Fidelity has a very advanced stock screener, which Vanguard doesn't have. So that's another win for Fidelity. Now let's pull up a stock quote in Vanguard. So here's another issue that I noticed. If you search for Microsoft using the ticker symbol and you just hit enter, it goes to this page here. Then it loads this quote page. Then you have a buy sell thing, but look what happens when you scroll down. You've got a search result in Microsoft that says Microsoft. Now look what happens when we click here. Let's see if we click here. Now we've got another quote for Microsoft. So it just showed a quote before. Now we've got another quote for Microsoft, which I don't understand why it does that. Now we've got a nice little stock chart here. It's fine. You can see analyst rating, hold. You can see the top competitors and how well they're doing. And you've got another chart here, news headlines, price history, and we have financials here. So under annual financials, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 years for the balance sheet, income statement. You also have quarterly. You've got some fundamental info here, yield, return on assets, return on equity, market cap, etc. Now we've got some earnings details, more analyst rating stuff here. And we've got some reports. So we've got, it looks like 2 analyst reports, Argus and Market Grader. So we've got an Argus report here. Let's download this one. Argus report, download. Oh, look at that, file not found. This is one of the largest companies in the world, Microsoft. And the link to this is not working. Okay, so let's try the other one. So let's try Market. Click this, download. Okay, this one worked. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's all you see for Microsoft. So here's another thing I noticed. When you go to transact, buy and sell, and you put in Microsoft, get quote, look what happens. You get this other quote thing. It's a different sort of layout. And it takes us to the other one. Now here's another thing I noticed. When you're back on the Microsoft quote page, you've got this menu header here. Did you notice that the menu header jumps around? So watch when I click on it. Where's the chart thing? So it opens the chart. Now I've got to go all the way back up to the top. When I click price history, it doesn't stay on the page. It jumps around. So this menu is pretty much useless to me. I would rather just scroll down because that's what they're making you do anyways. Now let's do the same thing with Fidelity. SFT, enter. Look at that. One click, Microsoft came up. It didn't have to load another thing. I didn't see another thing listed below. So one click, we're there. Now, let's look at this menu header here. We've got chart. Look at that. The menu stays. The menu mostly stays on this one. So I could actually leave this here. It does jump around a little bit, but you can actually see that it does a much better job. We can see the chart, dividends and earnings, sentiment. We have analyst ratings. Look at all these research reports that Fidelity gives us. 7 opinion and reports. Other opinions, 19. So the other ones we may not get reports on. Remember, Vanguard for Microsoft only had one that was working. The other one wasn't working. So let's look here. Oh, here's Argus. Look at that. Let's click on Argus. Oh, look at that. The Argus research report is working, unlike Vanguard. Let's try another one, Jefferson Research. Okay, this one works. So far 2 out of 2 with Fidelity, both of those links working. We also have an industry comparison just like Vanguard had, but we also have an equity summary score, which I don't believe Vanguard had a score. And this looks a little bit more advanced too. Also, we can see here the ETFs that have a high percentage exposure to Microsoft, and we can do a comparison here and add our own ticker. We also have some statistic info here. We've got earnings per share, gross margins, etc. SEC filings. And if we click here, we can financial statements. Look at that. So financial statements, you've got 5 years of financial statement Fidelity, balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow. So that's another win for Fidelity. And if we don't want to keep jumping around through this menu, we can just click View All and scroll down and see everything. Let's try doing an order with Vanguard. So I'm putting in the Vanguard S&P 500. I want to see if we can do a fractional order. Okay, so I'm gonna put in VOO buy, and let's try $1. This is going to be a fractional share because Vanguard S&P 500 is $575, and we only have $1 to pay. So you can see the estimated shares, the dollar amount, commission free, and the option that it gives us is market. Unfortunately, with Vanguard, they only support fractional market orders. So if you want to buy at a specific price, you can't do that with fractional orders. Now let's do the same thing with Fidelity. Buy. We had to switch to simplified ticket. Now let's try mark limit order. We'll go to $1. And we can set a limit price. Let's set a limit price of, let's say $550. Okay, let's preview it. Now it mentions that you can do market and limit orders. It's after hours market right now. So I did this earlier and it worked with fractional limit orders. Both Fidelity and Vanguard support automatic investments or recurring investments. So I'm going to click on automatic investment. You see here it says create recurring transaction. Vanguard ETFs, Vanguard mutuals. You don't see stocks anywhere. This is not a link here. So if you have a stock that you want to buy or a non-Vanguard mutual fund or ETF, you can't do those kind of automatic investment with Vanguard. Okay, now let's create a recurring investment with Fidelity. Here's the option you see for recurring investment Fidelity. So it has stocks and ETFs listed, mutual funds, and Fidelity basket. So I've selected ETF, the Vanguard S&P 500, and you can see you could do it weekly, every 2 weeks, Monday, Tuesday, etc. And you set the date. So recurring investments, that's another win for Fidelity, but you can also do stocks and not just Fidelity specific funds or ETFs. So after seeing the Vanguard interface and the lack of features when compared to Fidelity, I bet you're probably thinking to yourself, Vanguard must be lowering their commissions and fees, right? What if I told you that they're actually not? They're actually increasing their fees. That doesn't make sense, does it? They added some new fees recently. Now, the fee that they changed that they previously didn't have was a transfer out fee, the full transfer out fee, ACAT transfer out fee. Before, they were one of the two brokers that was free, Vanguard and Fidelity. Fidelity is still free for that. But Vanguard may now charge a $100 processing fee for each account closure or transfer of account assets to another firm. However, if for clients who hold at least $5 million in qualifying Vanguard assets or brokerage accounts enrolled in Vanguard affiliated advisory, this fee will not be assessed. And I'm thinking maybe they're doing this because so many people are leaving Vanguard. So they're thinking that this $100 is going to prevent people from leaving, and maybe it will, but I'm still thinking about leaving. I'm still thinking about leaving because of this fee mostly, and because of everything else I mentioned. Now, they've always had this account service fee, and I believe before it was $20, now it's $25. You have to have at least $5 million or more, or you have to select e-statements, and then they won't charge this $25. But pretty much no one else charges this kind of thing. But Vanguard is the only one that I know that really charges this. They also changed, there's a broker-assisted fee now of $25 if you do a broker-assisted order over the phone. I don't know if they had that one before. I think this has changed, but everyone charges for assisted or phone orders now, so I'm not worried about this one. Now, one that a lot of people haven't talked about that's a huge fee, and it's probably not going to affect many people, but if you were unfortunate enough to own a master limited partnership, if you own it in an IRA, Vanguard is going to charge $500 per account for doing this IRS 990 tax filing. And somebody who got hit with one of these fees before said that it was $300. Now they increased it to $500. So first of all, owning a master limited partnership, from everything that I've read, is not a good idea in an IRA because the IRA is tax deferred. And so everything is supposed to be tax deferred. So you would think that the master limited partnership would be a great idea in an IRA, but unfortunately, the taxes actually pass through the IRA. I guess those are the rules that the IRS set. And so you'll actually have to pay taxes even though it's in an IRA. So definitely don't do that. But if you accidentally did this and then you realized the mistake you made, Vanguard's going to make it much worse by adding a $500 fee to add salt to the wound. So definitely I don't like this one. Why not just prevent people from buying a master limited partnership in an IRA to begin with, or put a warning message? But instead, Vanguard is just going to hit you with the $500 fee. And this would be each year that they have to do the filings. This $500 fee, I haven't seen anything this high with any other brokerage for anything. I went to this website, Clark. Should you stay with Vanguard despite the new fee announcement? And this guy, Clark, said, Vanguard's been making a lot of changes over the years, which I don't like. I have no problem when you institute unfriendly changes on new customers, but what I don't like is when Vanguard hands out these edicts and almost like on a whim, like these new junk fees. I don't like it. I don't like their explanation they sent out either. He lists the processing fee there. He also mentions the processing fee for physical CDs. This isn't a issue with me. Paper CDs and stock certificates, they always change for that, but this is the main one. And this one here that I've actually heard is a good thing. So this is basically a little bit confusing. It's a 20% fee, but it's a brand new service and it's an elective service, so you don't have to subscribe to it. So if there's a class action settlement, like you own shares, I think, in a company and the stock price goes down and there's a class action lawsuit, you can sign up through Vanguard. You can sign up for the settlement, and any money that Vanguard gets for you, they'll take 20% of that. So it's better than nothing. If you don't sign up, you wouldn't receive anything. This guy mentions he's still sticking with Vanguard. He goes on to say, I just don't think this is the spirit that is tradition with Vanguard. Vanguard is owned by its account owners, but they're not being asked for input on this stuff. They're just being handed edicts, and it's not the way it should play. Now, Vanguard is not the only one that's had issues with fees in the past. Fidelity in 2024 was going to charge a $100 fee on only 9 firms' ETFs. These were very tiny, small companies. Fidelity was going to charge a $100 fee on these ETFs to investors, and the public sort of went crazy. There was huge public outcry, and this was within March. They announced it, March of 2024. On June 11th, Fidelity Investments has decided not to implement additional charges for investors purchasing exchange-traded funds from a select group of small asset management. They quickly resolved the issue and everyone's happy, but Vanguard has basically taken a different approach. And so I'm pretty happy with the way Fidelity has been resolving issues. And with Vanguard, I'm not happy with the way they're resolving issues like with the new fees. Here's another one for you. Vanguard's customer service versus Fidelity's. Vanguard has customer service available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Okay, now let's look at Fidelity. Fidelity has a virtual assistant. Fidelity has a chat live with our team. This is the online chat, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Saturday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And they also have 24/7 phone support. So Fidelity definitely wins on that one. There's also the Fidelity Investments Reddit page. Fidelity actually has a staff of customer care people who work and answer questions on the Reddit thread. Vanguard doesn't have that. So once again, another win for Fidelity. So what do you guys think? Are you thinking about leaving Vanguard brokerage for Fidelity or something else because of the fees or maybe the interface or lack of features? Are you thinking of leaving? I'm actually thinking about leaving Vanguard, and I have a retirement account, which I think Vanguard is perfectly designed for. I think Vanguard has a place for retirement accounts, but I don't like the direction Vanguard is headed. And after using the interface, I'm thinking I would be better off with Fidelity. So what do you guys think? Please comment below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to check out my other videos. Have a good one.